Welcome to the mom room. Let's do this. It's Friday. As soon as I'm done recording this episode, I'm going to drive to my parents' house, which is 4.5 hours, maybe 5 if you stop. I definitely have to stop and get tampons because do you guys remember? I don't know how long ago this was, maybe 2 years ago. This was when my period was like raging before I started the birth control pill. And I was at my parents' place and I got my period and I had a few tampons, ultras, okay? And I was like, I'm out of tampons. I'm going to run into the little town near where they live and get a tampon. And there was the biggest tampon size that they had was super. And if you're a tampon aficionado, you know it goes like light, regular, super plus, and then ultra. And I was using ultras and like bleeding through regularly. So I was like, does nobody in this town have a heavy period? Like, how is there only one small box of regular size tampons in this entire town? So I had to drive 45 minutes to a bigger city to get ultra tampons at a pharmacy. Anywho. So every time I go to my parents, I'm like, okay, you need to make sure you have the proper hygiene because it is not available close by. So anyways, I don't know. My whole point being is that it's going to take me longer to get to my parents today because I have to stop and get a couple things. I'm going there for the weekend alone, much needed. Milo will be busy here with my husband. He has 2 birthday parties to attend, so that should be pretty exciting. So this episode, what I wanted to do, because I've been doing so many health things lately and sharing about them online, like the allergy testing, the colonoscopy, people just seem to be interested in these topics. And so I thought I would do a rundown of just where I'm at with those things, why I am doing all of this stuff and really making my health a priority this year. So let's start with digestion. And honestly, I was thinking like, what are the pillars of health in my life that I struggle with that are most important to me? Because I was trying to think of which topics I wanted to talk about today. Digestion, obviously. What's the other one? Oh yeah, like OBGYN stuff, like hormones, periods, that kind of stuff, which has never in my entire life been an issue for me until I started approaching 40 years old. And anyways, when I get into that topic, I'll explain to you. It's actually pretty interesting stuff. And it's always funny because you do all these appointments, like you chat with different healthcare providers, and each one kind of gives you something to leave with, like to think about. Some literally change your life with just one suggestion of something to try. It's so interesting to me. And it's one of those things that's like, you have to advocate for yourself. You have to, if you go see somebody and it's just not working and it's too much or it's too little or they're not understanding, like try somebody else. Like you never know. I feel like I've seen so many people and have learned things from each appointment, and then you have to piece together what is working for you, what's most important for you, and obviously show up to the doctor, request the tests that you want to have done, and so on and so forth. So I wanted to do this episode to kind of give a debrief and talk about some of the biggest things that I am going through right now, that I am focusing on when it comes to health, and things that have always bothered me my whole life. Like some people have skin issues their entire life and they go through so many doctors and they try so many things like naturally and also prescriptions, and I don't have skin issues, knock on wood. But so my things are digestion, OBGYN stuff, allergies or sinus issues, which I have always said sinus issues because I never knew that it was actually allergies. Because when I think of somebody with allergies, it's like, I don't know. It's almost like you think they have a cold, but they don't. And I've never experienced that part of allergies. Mine is literally just my sinuses. Like literally just my sinuses. I never have a sore throat. I never cough. I never have watery eyes, itchy eyes, nothing like that. It's literally my sinuses. And now I'm starting to have reactions, especially on my lips or skin, like some kind of skin reactions to allergies. Allergies. Okay, so digestion, hormone health, allergies, mental health. I wanted to include that as well. And I think that those are my 4 biggest things. So in this episode, I don't know how much I'm going to get through because I tend to just like yammer on. So let's talk about digestion first, because I did just do the colonoscopy. And first, let me tell you about the colonoscopy experience, okay? I've always been terrified to get one. It's when you think about what it is, it's like, what? Somebody's putting a camera up your bum and going through all of your intestines, looking at them. I don't know why I pronunciated it that way. Pronunciated. Oh my God, Renee. Anyways, I'm tired, guys. I'm not sleeping very well. So the thought of it is really weird. And growing up, it was always something that people did when they're old. You know, it's like, I was never going to get to that age where it's like, okay, you should probably have a colonoscopy. I was like, what? So anyways, now I'm that person that gets colonoscopies. And people were always like, the prep is the worst part. Honestly, the thing that I was most worried about when it came to the colonoscopy was that everyone told me that when you're done the procedure, they put you in a room and you're just like ripping farts. Gas is just like leaving your body and there's other people in the room. And I was like, what? I don't want to do that. Like, that sounds terrible. Like, can you imagine sitting in a room with other people, even though like we're all here because we had colonoscopies and yeah, it's like a normal, natural thing that's happening. Like, gas is coming out of your butt. I don't want to be in that situation. I was like, I'm going to laugh. Like, I can't hold in my laugh if people are farting around me. Like, it's too much. I can't be in that situation. That's not what it was. So I don't know what people are talking about when they talk about that part of getting a colonoscopy. So this was my experience. I was nervous for the prep because there are 2 different kinds of prep that I have heard about when it comes to colonoscopies. So one is like 4 liters or 2 liters of liquid that tastes disgusting that you're supposed to drink in like one sitting. Like, you're supposed to drink it fairly quickly. First of all, you fast for 24 hours. I did not know that part of colonoscopy prep because when I was reading the paperwork of what I had to do, I was like, oh my God, I can't eat for 24 hours. I have tried in my lifetime, because I have digestion, constipation issues, to do cleanses where it's like 24 hours of, like juices or whatever it might be. I have never been successful. Ever. So I was terrified of that. I was like, I'm going to break down in tears and make myself toast or something. So I'll explain how I got through that part of it because it's like life hack if you ever have to get a colonoscopy. So the 24 hours, no eating. And then, okay, so let me take you from the beginning. 5 days or a week before your colonoscopy, you're not supposed to have nuts, seeds, popcorn, things that I guess are commonly getting stuck in people's intestines and colons and whatnot. So I didn't know that. And about 6 days before I had the colonoscopy is when I went to I took Milo to see Mufasa and I had popcorn. And I was like, oh shit, like I didn't realize I wasn't supposed to have popcorn, but I was like, it's probably going to be fine. So some people, because my parents have had colonoscopies and my mom was saying their list of things that they couldn't have a week before was way more detailed than what I got. Like, they couldn't have so many things. And if you Google online, like things not to eat before a colonoscopy, like it's so many things, like the skin of a tomato, because I guess that can get like stuck on the side of your intestines. And then when they're looking with the camera, it looks like something bad, so they just try and make sure you're not eating things that can get stuck that they can mistake for something that it's not. So that's like a week ahead of time. And then 24 hours before, so my colonoscopy was at 10:30 a.m. on Monday. So on Sunday, I could wake up and have breakfast. But after 10:30 a.m. on Sunday, I could no longer eat solids and all I could have was clear fluids. So clear fluids, I didn't realize this, but black coffee is considered a clear fluid. You can have Jello, but not a red Jello because, again, they don't want it to look like blood if it's stuck in your intestines. So I got orange Jello. I got ginger ale, which was lovely. No, I didn't even have the ginger ale. You know what saved my life in the 24 hours of not eating? Was really high quality, like organic, delicious. It's like almost homemade bone broth. It was like having a delicious chicken noodle soup, but without the noodles. And I had that at about 3 p.m. on the Sunday. And it saved my life. I was like, oh my God, I actually feel so satisfied. It's so nutritious. Your body is probably like, thank you. Thank you for all this nutrients. And I had it at 3 p.m. and then I had it later in the evening at like 7:30 p.m. before I went to bed. And right before I went to bed, I had my Jello, and it was like one of the best meals of my life. Like I was just over the counter, like pounding Jello. Like, this is amazing, which is so funny. Like, never would I do that. But if you don't eat for 24 hours and you're about to go to bed and you don't want to have that hungry feeling trying to go to bed, pound some Jello. It was delicious, like absolutely delicious. I was so thrilled with how I prepared myself for that 24 hours because it ended up going really well. Then I woke up in the morning and so I did the prep. You couldn't eat from 10:30 a.m. on Sunday. And then at 3 p.m., I had to have 4 Dulcolax pills, which are laxatives that I think make your bowels and your colon, like it draws in liquids and makes them spasm so that you go to the bathroom. And I was like, oh, dear God, like I've taken 2 Dulcolax before and it was a lot. So I was like, I'm just taking 4 at one time. That blew my mind. But I guess when you mix that with the other stuff that they give you, it's not that crazy. And I mean, eventually the Dulcolax is also just leaving your system, but that made me so nervous. So 4 Dulcolax at 3 p.m. And then at 6 p.m., I had to take my first little packet of Pico-Salax, which you mix it with 150 mils of cold water. You mix it around for 2 to 3 minutes and you put it in the fridge. So I made it ahead of time because they recommend it being as cold as possible because then it helps with the taste. So I made it at like 3 p.m. and put it in the fridge so that it would be really cold by 6 p.m. I also kept water in the fridge so that the water that I was mixing it with was really cold. And the good part about the Pico-Salax versus, some people saying that they have to drink 2 liters of something, which blows my mind. I don't know how they did it because at 6 p.m. I drank the Pico-Salax. It was rough. Like it tastes, somebody explained what it tastes like and it made so much sense. But I forget what they said. It's like, it's artificially sweet, but it's also really salty and it's just yuck. Like it's just makes your stomach turn. And I only had to do 150 milliliters of that, which is not even a cup. I think a cup of liquid is 250 mils. So that's crazy. Drank that at 6 p.m. And the hardest part was having the second packet at 4:30 in the morning because you have to take that 6 hours before your procedure. So mine was at 10:30 a.m. So I had to set my alarm. I set it for like 3:30 so that I could get up, have coffee, pretend it was like a morning, and I didn't want to have caffeine withdrawals and have a headache before the procedure because after 6 a.m. I couldn't drink. No, after I took the packet at 4:30, I could only drink water and I was supposed to try and drink 2 liters of water. So I got up early, had my coffee so that I could have my coffee. And then I was like, okay, it's time to go down and drink the second packet. And it was 4:30 a.m. Your stomach could not be emptier because I was already pooping my butt off all the night before. So now you wake up, you're like a shell of a human because you're starving. You have no energy because you pooped it all out. And it's 4:30 in the morning. You're like half asleep, but you have to drink 150 mils. And again, I'm so lucky that it was the Pico-Salax and not the 2 liter one. But drinking that at 4:30 in the morning on an empty stomach, feeling like a shell of a human, was so hard. I was like over the sink, like gagging, like just stay down, just stay down. So had that at 4:30, and then I was trying to drink as much water as possible. So one of my big tumblers was 1 liter of water. So I was like, okay, Renee, so between 4:30 and 6:30, I had 2 hours to try and drink 2 liters of water, because 4 hours before my procedure, I couldn't have anything, nothing at all. So that was because I had the one that went down my throat as well. I'll talk about that after. That was crazy. So 4:30, drink the second packet, trying to drink 2 liters of water. I'm in bed. I think I put on Parenthood or something, and I'm trying to drink water. And eventually I had to go to the bathroom, like just had to go pee. I had a little bit of a sore stomach. So I go sit on the toilet and I'm just puking water and the Pico Salax all over the bathroom floor. Like pure liquid. Like it was just like I took a bucket of water and just like dumped it on the floor. And I was like, shit, like, what am I going to do? I don't have another packet. I can't drink it. Like, if I did all of this for nothing and I get there and they're like, oh, you didn't drink the 2 liters of water, or you barfed up the second packet, like, sorry, we can't do your procedure. We're going to have to do this again. Like, I was going to lose my mind. And eventually I think fell asleep. I wiped up all the water that I barfed up all over the bathroom floor with a towel, threw it in the bathtub, and just went and laid down. And I was like, fuck it, I'm not drinking the water. I can't. Like, I'm going to just puke it up. Got back into bed, set my alarm for as late as possible. I think like 8 a.m. because I was like, I just want to try and sleep, because we had to leave the house around 8:15 to get to the hospital for 8:30. So I'm like a shell of a human, and I kept having to go to the bathroom, and it's just like liquid coming out of your butt. Like, I'm just going to say it, you know, if you're listening to this with people and they're like, what the hell are you listening to? Like, I'm sorry. Like, I just want to share my experience. Okay. So every once in a while you feel a sore stomach and it's literally just liquid coming out, literally just liquid. So it's a 12-minute drive maybe to the hospital. So Milo was off school that day, so he had to come with me and my husband to bring me to the outpatient day surgery place. And I was like, oh my God, I hope if I get that sore stomach and I'm in the car, like I'm literally just going to poop water on the seats, and my husband's going to have to clean it up, like when I'm getting my colonoscopy done. Luckily, I made it inside the hospital, but as soon as we walked in the front doors, I was like, I need a bathroom. And so I went to the bathroom, and there's a lady beside me in the stall. And I was like, it doesn't even matter, because it literally sounds like I'm peeing. It doesn't matter. And so I just like let it go, and it just like, you're peeing. It sounds the exact same because it's literally just liquid coming out. So anyways, I do that, go up, check in. They ask you a bunch of questions. You give them your paperwork that you filled out. And then you get called in to a little area. The nurse puts in the IV, and then they set me up on this bed. It's like beds lined up, but you're divided by curtains. And they're like, okay, like get comfortable here. I'm just in a gown. Get comfortable here. And when they're ready for you, like the guy will take you over to the room. So I was just like laying there closing my eyes because I was so tired. But the guy comes over and he's like, would you like a warm blanket? I was like, oh my God, yes. Like, I didn't realize how warm food keeps you. Not eating, I had the heating pad on me all night. Like, I was freezing. And then he got me a heated blanket. I was like, oh my God, you're an angel from above. He wheels me over to the room where they're going to do the procedure. And it's so weird because like I am a functioning adult. Like I can get up and walk to the room, but you're like laid in this bed with blankets on, like with an IV in your hand. Like you just feel so weird. So I'm waiting outside the room. I can hear them inside just like chatting and whatever. The person that was before me was like finishing up. And then they wheel me in. And I know my gastro, she lives in my neighborhood, which is funny. I was like, she's going to see my bum. But she was talking to me and telling the nurses that we live in the same neighborhood, and they were hooking me up to the IV thing. And she goes, we're going to do the gastro one first, or the endoscopy, whatever, the one that goes down your throat. And that was what I was so nervous about. And we're just like talking, and she's like, okay, get positioned on your side. And she put a strap almost like around my mouth that I had to bite down on this plastic piece that had a hole in it so that they could stick the tube down, and it kept my mouth open. All I remember is her saying, yep, like the way you have your tongue placed there, like that's perfect. Just like keep it under that little ledge. I don't remember a thing after that. All I remember after that is them saying, okay, turn over and we're going to do the colonoscopy now. What happened? It's like they press a button. That is how specific anesthesia is. It blows my mind. Like and I'm pretty sure the endoscopy takes like 5 minutes. Like it's not a long thing. They put it down, they look around your stomach, and then it's gone. I don't remember the tube going in, and I don't remember it coming out. But somehow they put me out of it for that short amount of time and then just like brought me back to life and was like, okay, turn over. We're gonna da da da. And I'm like, what? Like, what just happened? Like, what are you people doing? Like, this is sorcery. Okay. It's crazy. And so then I flipped over on my side, and I was obviously still under anesthesia, but not to the extent that I couldn't talk or like I didn't know what was going on. But you still like don't really feel what they're doing because I did not feel a thing, but I was watching my insides on the TV. And so after a while, like I'm just like talking to them, and I probably make no sense, but I knew what was going on. And I was like, can you pass me my phone? Because I wanted to film the TV screen that was looking at my intestines. And they were like, yeah, sure. So the nurse like hands me my phone. I have a 5-minute video on my phone of my intestines, guys. Like, and the cool thing is, they found one small polyp, which is just like a growth thing. You can have polyps like anywhere. I'm pretty sure I have a ton in my sinuses, and there's one in my uterus right now, but we'll talk about that after. I was filming when she took the little robot thing to get the polyp out. Like I have it on film. Maybe I'll share it one day. I think I'm going to make like a reel of my colonoscopy experience, and maybe I'll put it in because it's kind of cool. It's just like this little claw hand that comes out and like grabs it. It was nuts. So then they send that for testing. I already found out that it's benign. Thank you. Like that made my day. But yeah, I have a 5-minute video of them doing the colonoscopy. And then they finished and wheeled me into the recovery room. Not one fart was had in the recovery room because that's what I was scared of. I was like, oh great, I'm going to the room where everybody farts, and like, how am I supposed to not laugh? So I'm sitting there. I have my phone. I'm just like texted my husband, like took a couple pictures of myself, you know, things that I do. And she was like, oh, do you want ginger ale? And they check all your vitals, like make sure that you're recovering from the anesthesia. And I'm pretty sure I'm like really good at getting anesthesia because I was like wide awake, like talking to the nurses, making jokes. And the other people that were being wheeled in, they were like, are you there? Are you there? Do you know where you are? And I was like, oh my God, like what's wrong with these people? I am just like, yeah, put me out. I'm coming right back, you know? And so she's like, oh, do you want ginger ale? I was like, yes. And so she gave me a cup of ginger ale. It was the best drink I've ever had in my life. Because at that point, I hadn't had a sip of liquid since 6:30 a.m. And now it's like 11:30. So I fucking drank that ginger ale. Great. Now I have to put this as an explicit episode. Drank that ginger ale. And then eventually, once they were sure that I was okay, they called my husband to come pick me up and had me get dressed. They like put the curtain all around you. But again, no gas came out of my bum. And I was like, is this going to come back to haunt me later? Like, is all the gas just being trapped? And now later today, I'm going to be in so much pain because it didn't come out. Not the case. So I got dressed slowly. She's like, make sure you're sitting down when you get dressed. Like they were so concerned. Because I'm sure some people like fall and it's like a big deal. And then they had me go in a wheelchair and they wheeled me down to my husband's car. And then I came home, shell of a human. We got a smoothie bowl, which was the best thing you could possibly have after a colonoscopy. Let me tell you, it was cold, especially like the one that went down my throat. No recollection of it whatsoever. But when I swallowed afterwards, just for like a few hours, it did feel like I got knocked in the throat, if that makes sense. It wasn't a sore throat. It was just like noticeable. Like when I would swallow, it was like something was there. But that went away really quickly. But the smoothie bowl, my God, again, it was just like nutrients and coldness and deliciousness. So I came home, I ate that, and I immediately went to bed. And my plan was to watch Parenthood all day, and I couldn't even watch Parenthood. I was so tired from not eating for 24 hours and pooping my butt off that I couldn't even watch Parenthood. I was so mad. So I just like kept laying there with my eyes closed. I would wake up every once in a while. And then by the evening, I had a little bit of energy and we ate, and my husband and I watched 90 Day Fiance. And then I went to bed and slept really well because I was so exhausted. But since I had my colonoscopy, because they literally, like, you are flushed out all the way, I was like, I am not eating gluten after this colonoscopy, and I haven't yet. And it's been like 5 days. So yay me. I'm not eating gluten. I'm trying to focus on more like anti-inflammatory kind of foods to just heal myself. I'm pretty sure like I'm an inflamed person. We all are. So I just want to eat better for that. Like less sugar, less like no gluten, focus more on like fresh foods and just like nutrient dense foods. And the bone broth, I think that's going to be a staple for me because it's so good for you. There's so many health benefits, and that tasted freaking delicious. And I've tried other bone broths and did not like them. Like I know you can buy like powders and like mix it with hot water. It's not the same. This comes in like a soup container. I'm pretty sure, I don't know where this company is from. It's called Ripe, R-I-P-E. And I think their Instagram is Ripe Wellness. And they sell them in stores down south. You can check their website and it shows you where the stores are that has their products. There was a beef bone broth and a chicken bone broth, and I've only so far tried the chicken one, but my God, they call it liquid gold, like breast milk, you know? And I'm going to try and drink that regularly because, oh my gosh, it was good. It was so, so, so good. So I went and stocked up on a bunch of it, and I'm bringing it to my parents because there's no stores in Northern Ontario that sell it. So I just went and bought like 7 containers of it. They were like, oh, she likes bone broth. And then as I'm leaving the store, of course, this lady is like, I make my own bone broth. It cost me $4. I'm like, that's great. Like, I'm so happy for you. And then she proceeded to explain to me exactly how she made her bone broth. I was like, I don't know what it is about me. People just talk to me. People talk to me. And like, not in a casual way. I don't know if it's like the reaction that I give them that they're like, oh, like she wants to hear everything that I have to say. I don't know. But anyways, that was my colonoscopy experience. I cannot believe I have talked about this for 30 minutes. I'm sorry if that was so boring. Maybe it was a fun story. I don't know. But 30 minutes later, I've told you about my colonoscopy. So let me tell you a little bit about why I wanted or was recommended to get a colonoscopy. I specifically remember starting to get these sore stomachs in 2003. Fun fact about 2003 is that is the year that I lived in Florida. The first time I ever had one of these sore stomachs was when I was living and going to school in Florida. I don't know what that has to do with anything, but I remember that. Also, the year I lived in Florida, I was eating out of a cafeteria and eating so terribly. Like I came from a house where my mom always made home cooked meals. We didn't eat out a lot. And then I went into this like eating out of a cafeteria, eating way too much, eating out all the time, like just a totally different diet. And I started to get these sore stomachs. And people are always like, oh, gallbladder. It's not my gallbladder. I've had a million ultrasounds, scans, all those things. Nothing shows up. So the sore stomach is hard to explain. It's not like, oh my God, I have to sit on a toilet. It's like sharp, debilitating pains high up in my actual stomach, if that makes sense. It's not like lower where you would get period cramps or where you feel like you're going to have diarrhea. It's higher up. And I used to think like, is it an ulcer? Is it heartburn? It's not heartburn. It's so bizarre because when I do get that sore stomach, I have learned over the years that if I lay flat on my back, the pain subsides. But as soon as I get up and start moving around again, it slowly comes back. So that started in 2003, but it would happen so infrequently like months in between each episode. And I remember finally when I was living in Ottawa, because the healthcare up north, like it'll take you forever to see a specialist, and also will take you forever if you're just like, yeah, I get a sore stomach every once in a while. But when I got to Ottawa, it was easier to see a specialist, and I started to become concerned about, like, what if this happens on my wedding day? I literally can't function. Like, I have to lay down. And so I eventually saw a gastro in Ottawa, and he was like, I can't really help you. Like, he asked me a bunch of questions, like, how often does it happen? It was like barely ever, every once in a while. I was like, when I lay down, it goes away. He was like, okay. And he was like, do you get relief from the pain if you like pass gas or if you go to the bathroom? I was like, no, not at all. Like, I don't know. So he was like, okay, I can't really help you. I was like, thank you so much. So I just dealt with it. It would happen once in a blue moon, always at like the weirdest times. One time I was on a date at the zoo, and I was like, can we just go? I have to go lay on this bench. Like, I have this raging sore stomach. And he was like, okay. So laying on a bench. One time I was at a play in Ottawa with my friends. I had to leave and go home. One time I was shopping at the Eaton Centre, which is like the big mall in Toronto. And I was shopping with Kathy, my friend, and I was like laying on a bench at the mall. And I remember her saying, like, don't worry, there's way weirder people here. Like, nobody's looking at you. I was like, perfect. Because if I, like, the pain gets really bad, and then if I lay down, it'll subside to the point where, like, I can get back up and have, like, 5 minutes to, like, get home or to get to the car to be able to go lay down. Then, as I got older, I started to realize that it happens after I have a diarrhea attack or, like, an IBS attack. I'm pretty sure I have IBS. Heavy on the constipation, every once in a while, diarrhea attack. Okay. So if I were to have a diarrhea attack or do a water enema or take laxatives, and it gives me like one of those like sore stomachs to where you like have diarrhea, I noticed that if it was in the morning, that afternoon, I would get that sore stomach. Or if it was like in the evening, the next day in the afternoon, I would get that sore stomach for a day or two. So bizarre. But I started to pick up on this pattern of like, oh, if I have a sore stomach IBS attack, the next day or the day of is when I get that sore stomach. My stomach has slowly gotten worse over the last like 5 to 10 years. And I think it's because of a lot of things, like I'm getting older, hormones, all the things just get worse as you get older. So constipation is really bad. And then if I have a diarrhea attack, I get that sore stomach. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to try and see a gastro again because it was happening pretty frequently. So I go see a gastro. No one has ever taken the time with me like she did in that appointment. She like listened to everything. She made so much sense. Like when she was explaining to me what could be going on, I was like, oh my God, nobody has even suggested that before. She said what they're starting to learn is that after an IBS attack, people experience pain sometimes because their insides are almost like spasming. I was like, interesting. So she recommended I try Buscopan, which you get from a pharmacist. It's not just on the shelf. You have to ask a pharmacist for it in Ontario anyways. And it's an antispasmodic for your stomach or your digestive system. So she's like, next time that happens, you feel that sore stomach coming on, try and take a Buscopan and Gas X. And I was like, okay. And honestly, it helps so much. Sometimes it's not perfect and I still have to lay down and I'm uncomfortable, but it is so much better with Gas X. I'll take 2 Gas X and a Buscopan and it's life-changing. So after that appointment, I explained my history like with constipation, colon cancer runs in the family. And so she was like, okay, we're going to set you up for a colonoscopy. I was like, fabulous. So that is why I had the colonoscopy. And I was like, wow, you just like come across one doctor who listens to what you're saying and just has better ideas and puts things together better than another doctor would, you know? And the result is life-changing. And now I've had a colonoscopy. I did the gastro thing because my sore stomach is so high up. she wanted to do the one down my throat to check my stomach just to make sure. And everything was clear. And I found out today that the polyp that they removed was benign. So I was like, oh my God, like what a good day. I'm very excited. So yeah, that is kind of my digestion issue. The thing about constipation is I know I can control it with diet, but it's really frustrating because sometimes I could adjust it to be high protein because everybody's like high protein, like you have to eat a certain way to help your hormones and balance your hormones and not have a cortisol spike at 2 a.m. and wake up and not be able to sleep. But at the same time, my digestive system wants something else, you know? It's like if I eat a ton of meat and dairy, I get severely constipated. So the way I used to eat, I remember specifically a few years ago, I would wake up, have my coffee. And that's another thing, like suffering from constipation, you want to wake up and just have black coffee because sometimes that's what helps you go to the bathroom is having black coffee, especially if you put Restoralax in the coffee. Like that is an antidote for some people to be able to poop regularly. So when people are like, you shouldn't have coffee on an empty stomach, it's so bad for cortisol and hormones and blah, blah, blah. It's like, choose your battles though. Like I can't wake up and eat a steak. Like I will never poop again in my life. But I remember when I was pooping so amazing, I've never pooped so amazing in my life. It was, I would wake up, have coffee, drive Milo to school or daycare, come back home. I would have my athletic greens. I would have like the best poop ever. And for breakfast, I would have an oatmeal with a ton of berries. And that's it. Like a watery, hearty oatmeal with a ton of berries, but there's no protein in that. And you're supposed to have protein all the time. So what I think I have to do is have the oatmeal, but put protein powder in the oatmeal, which drastically changes the taste. But good protein powder, that's the name of the brand, is the absolute best protein powder. And I've had naturopaths and health people look at the ingredients and they said it's a really good protein powder with regard to what's in it, like the ingredients. So I think what I have to do is make my oatmeal, put a ton of berries, and I just get the frozen blueberries, frozen raspberries from Costco, mix it into the oatmeal on the stove, put in protein powder and have that for breakfast. And then maybe like a boiled egg on the side or something just to like get the protein to 30 grams. So it's like finding ways to help my digestion, but then also get the proper nutrients in like that I need as a woman that's hopefully going to be working out regularly and trying to build muscle and wants to balance her hormones as best as possible. Yeah, so that's that on that. This whole episode is just about digestion and pooping. What else do I have in here? Yeah, so the frustrating part, I can manage it with other things that I do to manage constipation. Have tea. Like I'm not a tea drinker. I don't love drinking tea. But if I'm trying to start after lunch having a green tea and then after dinner having a peppermint tea, that helps a lot. And I think it's because like the hot liquid is breaking down the foods. I'm literally a 90-year-old woman. Like if I had oatmeal for breakfast and soup for lunch and soup for dinner and then teas to wash it down, like I would be pooping great. But I don't want to eat like that. It's not fun. And eating should be fun. Said in the voice of Kyle from Summer House. Eating should be fun. Summer should be fun. Before bed, what really helped for a while is I would have a peppermint tea and like 3 kiwis. Kiwis are really good for constipation. And having 3 kiwis and tea before bed is super helpful. Restoralax in your coffee. And again, for me, it's like soft foods. Let's see. Yeah. Soft foods, soups, oatmeal for breakfast, berries. Yeah. So I think what happened before when I was trying to eat a ton of protein, it made me so constipated because I was having these big yogurt bowls, lots of meat, and I need to find a balance between eating for constipation, but then also eating to get enough protein. And I'm sure there's like people have talked about some supplements that are good for constipation, but like I just want to try and deal with this on my own. Like I am such a supplement hoarder. I have so many supplements and I'm just a little bit sick of it right now. Like, yes, I still love like the basic things like magnesium and all that kind of stuff. And I'm trying to incorporate that before bed too to help with sleep and digestion. But oh my God, it's overwhelming. It's so overwhelming. So I'm trying to just eat better, focus on things that help me go poo. And yeah, so that's my digestion episode for you guys. I hope you enjoyed the colonoscopy story. Look forward to the colonoscopy reel. I am going to go drive to my parents' place right now, which is a long drive. I got some podcasts lined up to listen to. And yeah, thank you guys so much. So many of you guys went and rated and reviewed the podcast. Thank you so much. That helps so much for the show. I feel like when a show first comes out, so many people are like rating and reviewing it and following it and stuff. But then I've been doing this for years now. And so people just kind of forget to do that. So the other day on Instagram, I put up a reminder like, oh, like please go rate, review and subscribe. And so many people did. And I'm so thankful for that. It made me so happy. So yeah, if you haven't, please rate, review, subscribe, follow us on Instagram at The Mom Room. And yeah, I will see you guys on Thursday with another solo. Bye.